We have reached the end of August. So today I'm counting down my favorite movies. Let's do it. What is up, big fans? Welcome back to my channel, and what a busy month it was. So busy that I actually didn't get a chance to watch all of the new releases this month. Movies like The Protege or Respect. I'll get to them eventually. If you follow me on Letterboxd, you'll be able to see those reviews. But right now, we're going to talk about, I believe, 17 to 18 movies that I saw this month. I'm going to count them down at the end of the video, rank them, but first, put them on the tiers that I feel like they deserve to be on. So I need your comments down below. How did you feel about the month of August? What was your favorite and least favorite movie? All of those things in the comments. And if you like this series, as always, drop your thumbs up down below. That tells me you want more. And that tells me you want more tier lists that I'm working very diligently on. So some more to come. But right now, let's get right into this list and start out with the movie that I actually didn't get a chance to review. That's the beautiful thing about these tier lists. So, Stillwater is the first movie we are talking about. Tom McCarthy, director of a movie like Spotlight, incredible film. So you kind of expect greatness whenever you get a movie from him just because of that one experience. Matt Damon plays our main character, and Stillwater is based on a true story. It is a very emotional and personal drama, one that features a very tragic element. This girl who is in prison for murder claims that she did not do anything wrong. So Matt Damon's character, language barriers and all, basically creates this new life for himself as he goes on this mission to get his daughter out of prison. And wow, what an incredible story. One that, I've heard things about being talked about on the outside of this film, but we're only going to talk about this movie, and the execution is absolutely here. While I did have a couple of issues with the pacing, and there were times where I thought to myself, this movie could be shorter, and I believe it would have more of an impact, but the overall look, feel, cast does a really, really great job. Matt Damon, of course, is incredible, but Abigail Breslin delivers one of the better performances I've seen this year. This is a good movie, so I believe it deserves to be on the good tier. I wanted it to be great, but I still enjoyed the experience. Next up, we have a film that I didn't know what to think going in, and you know Ryan Reynolds, what he's able to do constantly, and sometimes he plays very similar characters, but this time, a movie written by the writers who did Deadpool, and there's this sense of care surrounding this film that was surrounding it before going in, so I knew it would at least be entertaining. What I didn't know is that it would be entertaining and a good movie. The execution, the story, the heart, the unexpected nature of where the movie goes, and there's so much that goes into this that maybe I didn't even expect to go into it that makes it such a good experience. Now, what keeps it from being great, in my opinion, were a few things with the writing and then Taika Waititi's character. Y'all know how much I love me some Taika Waititi. I just didn't love his character in this movie. And I know you're not supposed to love him, but the performance was more so my issue. Beyond that, features some of the greatest cameos, and I'm not even necessarily talking about the gamers, although that was cool, just like IP-wise. Some cameos towards the end of the movie. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Free Guy, man, one of the better blockbusters of the year, and it just did its job. When a movie does its job and does it well, that means it deserves to be talked about like this movie's being talked about. Oh, hello! Kissing Booth, the third one. We're going to go ahead and throw this on the alpha tier. And I don't mean to be this way towards romantic comedies. When you give me a good one, a good coming-of-age story / romantic comedy, then I'll put it where it belongs, right? To All the Boys, I think that franchise does a good job with what it's trying to do. Kissing Booth is the opposite for me. It's not only, and I use this word quite often with these kinds of films, cringeworthy, but the story just does not deliver anything that we haven't seen before. And this third movie has some of the funniest moments of the entire year. The Mario Kart scene, where they dress up like Mario and Wario and Princess Peach, and the filmmaking, that's the point where I just kind of checked out of the film entirely. That's not true. I had to finish it. I had to finish it and review it. I had to sit through it. The Kissing Booth 3 is just, it's not my kind of film. I get it. I'm not the target audience, but I don't know who is. So, okay, let's get more positive here. CODA, Child of Deaf Adults. I saw this movie all the way back at Sundance, I believe it was, and Had to rewatch it, of course, the release date being in August, and let me tell you, it was not a chore whatsoever. This movie is great, and I mean great. There is nothing about this film that comes across as forced or, immature or just not funny. The humor is great. The emotion is great. The family dynamic is fantastic. I thought the filmmaking was a bit cheesy at times, but overall, CODA is one of the most heartfelt and wonderful. That's the word to use here. It's just a wonderful, wonderful film with great acting, showing us something that we really haven't seen before. Someone who is deaf having a child who is not, and how that child deals with them, vice versa. The quirks that come with that, but also the more serious and emotional moments. And the fact that she wants to be a singer when they're thinking, why would you want to do something that we would never be able to experience? And that is gut-wrenching. It's heartbreaking. But at the same time, the way that this movie plays out is wonderful. So it's on Apple TV if you haven't had the chance to see this movie. Something on Netflix, not a Netflix original, but a movie that had its release date on the platform in August was SAS The Rise of the Black Swan, not the Natalie Portman film. We're going to put this on the meh tier. Austin, why is it meh? Well, it's because I've seen this movie before, and I've seen it executed a bit better. It's not bad enough to where I could consider it a bad movie, because I believe the action keeps it afloat. There are some really great looking scenes as well. The cinematography here is nothing to sneeze at. But the problem is you don't really get invested into any of the characters. The acting is not on par with what it should be. Ruby Rose does a great job of being physical, but I just didn't buy her performance and her character. And then beyond that, you have someone like Andy Serkis, who is fine, but he's not Andy Serkis in the movie. He's just fine. And so you combine all of those things, it comes together to create a film with a plot that features a couple of plot holes as well that I took issue with. So overall, SAS, it's fun enough if you want to check out an action movie on Netflix, but I've seen much better in the genre. Something that really surprised me in a way that's heartfelt, emotional, even though I believe the filmmaking could have been better. Bob Ross, the brand new documentary on Netflix. I thought this was a good film, a good experience. The thing that kept it from being great, because I think the story is there. You're exploring a side of Bob Ross that no one really knows about, talking about the drama surrounding the company that's using his name for profit. So you'll be thinking a lot harder next time you buy something with Bob Ross on it. And I've done the same thing, but now I'm just going to be like, I don't know if I want to do that, even though I love me some Bob Ross. Beautiful thing is it never really tarnishes the name of Bob Ross. It just shows you the ins and outs. We get to see a side of his family. We get to speak with his son throughout the documentary. The problem with the movie is they couldn't really get a lot of people to do interviews because of the repercussions. So that makes it feel like the doc itself, the execution, falls short, but the story is absolutely there and it's very emotional. So good tier for me. Next up, we have Don't Breathe 2, which, it's a sequel to a great movie, but it's on the meh tier. Don't Breathe is a great horror film. Stephen Lang is amazing. The first movie really capitalized on what the premise was, and that is people breaking into this guy's house, and he has to use his other senses to protect himself. Now, this movie paints this character in a different light. In the first film, he's almost this villain. In this movie, he's definitely more of a hero, and they kind of forget some things about his past, even though that's still explored in the film. But this film kind of goes away from what made the first one so good. Those elements are still there, and those are the portions of the movie that I really enjoyed. Everything else with this girl's family and the villainous characters that you're supposed to care about, then you're not supposed to care about them, but then you're supposed to care again. And it just becomes too much, as well as just going on too long. I felt like the movie didn't know what it wanted to be at times, so I was definitely disappointed in Don't Breathe 2, but at least we still have the first film. Then we have Annette, and let me tell y'all, this is a musical unlike anything you're going to see all year. And while it is crazy, and I'm still not entirely sure what certain things meant, I'm going to put this on the good tier. I thought this was a pretty good film. Now, it's lower good tier for sure, because I'm still not entirely there on the execution, but the ambition, and I hate using that word sometimes because it becomes lazy, right? You could say a movie's ambitious all you want. Annette really is ambitious. And Annette is the kind of film that you have to be a fan of this style of movie if you're going to appreciate it. And even if you are a fan, it may be too weird. I will say, though, the performances, all of them are outstanding, but the highlight for me is Adam Driver. He delivers one of the better performances I've seen. So you're going to have a movie filled with music and crazy moments and moments that do not work or hold up, but the experience is one I'll never forget. Candyman, directed by Nia DaCosta, who I'm just so excited about to see what she's going to do next. Her style, look, feel, some of the best cinematography of the entire year. It's incredible. It absolutely is. But the thing about this movie is that there are certain things about the story that fall short, and I believe the third act was really rushed, right? First two acts deliver to a degree that's awesome. Third act, I'm like, I wish there was a bit more. I also wish it was a bit more on the scary side. Now, the haunting moments that we get, the creepy moments, and the way that those moments are filmed. One in the bathroom that I thought was just phenomenal. Those are great. Certain story points are really, really great. And just the overall execution works so well. I wish the script was a bit better, but overall, I think this is a good movie. It deserves to be on the good tier. Neil Blomkamp, Demonic. This is a movie that I was really looking forward to. Unfortunately, it just fell flat. I wanted to see Neil come back. I refer to him like I know him. Hello, Neil. Come back stronger and better than ever, because his last couple of movies were really divisive. And then you have District 9, a movie that shot him to the top so quick. But this goes straight into the horror genre with a few sci-fi elements. I thought the style of this movie falls flat at times. It's about this girl who goes and visits her mother after committing unspeakable acts, but she does it within this machine that allows her to go in, not physically, but mentally, and have a conversation. Then she realizes there's something more at play here. It's not her mother. It's demonic. And the movie's just not that scary. And then we get crazy and bring in these Vatican warriors, and the film goes in a completely different direction. There's one scene utilizing practical effects that is phenomenal. And I'm like, that's what I wanted this film to be. Everything else falls flat. The movie just doesn't work. Hey, it's Jason Momoa. We're going to put this movie, Sweet Girl, on the bad tier. And it's unfortunate because I thought Sweet Girl had some great elements. Talking Jason Momoa, his performance, there's an emotional scene that he has to display to us in the first act, and it's incredible. It really is. But the story and the shell of this movie, it's something we have seen countless times. I thought the tone was so up and down throughout the film, and then there's a twist that I'm just like, yeah, okay. I like the fact that his daughter is getting in on the action, and it's a dual journey, an adventure with the both of them, and that's really cool. And some of the action scenes were fun, but then other action scenes were just so poorly filmed and choreographed. I don't know, man. Sweet Girl just didn't work for me, but again, Jason Momoa gives a great performance. Next up, John David Washington in Beckett. We're going to throw this on the okay tier because I think it's an okay movie. Look, it's like a throwback thriller, a kind of film that we don't see all that often nowadays. I think John David Washington does an excellent job in this film. He doesn't have much to say, but it's a very physical and intense performance, but also a performance that does a lot for the movie itself, because there are times where the film just, it doesn't do as much script-wise as it does on an intensity level, and that's why it stays on that okay tier. But I had a nice throwback time watching this. It's a movie that we don't often get nowadays. Then we have The Night House, a very simple horror movie starring Rebecca Hall, and even though it's lower great tier, I'm going to throw this on the great tier. Look, I think this is, simplicity at its finest. It's just her, all about the fallout of the death of her husband, but what he leaves behind for her. A series of clues, a mystery of sorts that she has to solve, but in the midst of that, there are a couple of scares and jump scares, but, often jump scares, they're not maybe executed in the best way. These are really solid, and it's a movie that keeps you on your toes. It's very intense, and The Night House was a nice surprise. It scared the living crap out of my wife. I mean, she was terrified in the theater at one moment. I do believe it wraps up a bit too quick, and there are a couple things that keeps it from hitting the level that it had the potential to hit, but Rebecca Hall is excellent. You know what else is excellent? The brand new Witcher film, Nightmare of the Wolf. It's going to go on the great tier. If you're a fan of The Witcher, the show on Netflix, this is a nice piece of the puzzle that fits between season 1 and season 2. Even though it's a full-on prequel, it tells the story of Vesemir. Vesemir is a character who's going to play an integral role in the next season, but this is how he came to be, the legend of this specific Witcher. We get to see the trials that he goes through in becoming a Witcher, but we also get to see a relationship of sorts that is just so heartbreaking. The animation is really good. The intensity is where you want it to be, and I was surprised by this film. Absolutely a Netflix anime that really did work with what it was going for. And He's All That, a movie that we just talked about on this channel. We're going to throw this on the awful tier. And this isn't just because it's Addison Rae, the TikToker. It isn't just because it's as cringe as the title told you it would be. A couple of scenes in there that just had me like, ugh, you know. And some people enjoy this film. And you know what? There is a sense of the movie knowing what it is at times, and I appreciate that. Also, Matthew Lillard is just, he's spectacular. It doesn't matter what this movie's about. His moments are fantastic, even though they don't quite fit in the grand scheme of the film. There's just a lot of scenes, right? The dance scene that just, it's there. I mean, I know there was a dance scene in the original, but this one, the way that it's constructed and the very cliche story, you know where the story's going from the opening scene, and that's exactly where it goes, but I didn't even really feel the chemistry between the two characters. It's just, you know, didn't work for what it was trying to do. Let's move on to the Hugh Jackman film Reminiscence, which a lot of people didn't like. I could be on my own boat over here sailing out into the ocean, but you know what? I embrace that. I accept that. I'm going to put this on the good tier. Lower good tier for sure, but a good tier. So me. I like movies like this. I do. I think it's the kind of noir, detective, sci-fi movie that does just enough to kind of keep you engaged throughout. I think Hugh Jackman's a big part of that. I thought Rebecca Ferguson was fantastic in this movie, and there's just a lot that kept me engaged. Yes, the pacing's slow at times. Yes, it may go on a bit too long, but the way they're utilizing this technology, exploring the mind of these individuals, and being this mind detective, I thought that was interesting. So Reminiscence, yes, I might be alone in saying this, but I thought it was a good movie, and I was intrigued and engaged throughout. I just was. Next up, we have Vacation Friends, a film that's actually pretty funny. It's not the best made movie I've ever seen, but I'm going to put it on the okay tier. And Lil Rel has had quite the month, from Free Guy to Vacation Friends, and delivering on that comedic timing, which is so great. But John Cena, I mean, his performance is as extravagant as his character's hair. And this couple, they go on this trip, they meet these vacation friends that actually follow them back to their everyday life. And that's where maybe not as much chaos ensues as Vacation, but chaos ensues in a different way. The story, predictable. The emotional moments, they're fine, right? But you're there for the humor, you're there for the comedy, and that delivers in spades at times. The jokes that don't land, we just kind of move on to the next moment, but usually that next moment will have a joke that hits, and that's kind of what you want from a comedy. So I had an okay time while watching this. Finally, don't need to talk about it too much more. I've already seen it 3 times. I have to log it on Letterboxd the 3rd time. I'm going to throw the Suicide Squad on the awesome tier. And now, there's some very fair criticisms when it comes to this movie. The story is simple. You know, the end goal, there are parts about it that maybe could have been executed just a tiny bit better, but other than the simplicity of the story, and I don't even see that as a criticism, I don't have a lot of criticisms. When a movie fully embraces what it is and what it's trying to be, like the Suicide Squad, delivers on the action, delivers on the violence, delivers on the intensity, I thought the comedy was great. Not everyone's been on board with that, but comedy is so subjective, as are movies. I thought the Suicide Squad just nailed what it was trying to do. And James Gunn has fully embraced this world and these characters, and I had the best time with this film. Just the best time. I am blown away by what this movie was trying to do. And you may be asking me, Austin, what about Shang-Chi? I know you saw that movie. Well, the official release date is in September, so we have a superhero movie for this next month. But August's superhero movie was absolutely the Suicide Squad, and it belongs on that awesome tier for me. Okay, guys, we're going to get into ranking these films, And of course, we're going to start at the bottom with He's All That and The Kissing Booth 3 in that order. And then on the bad tier, I'm going to put Demonic below Sweet Girl. So congrats, Sweet Girl. You're at the top of the bad tier. Next up, SAS will be the next movie on this list, followed by Don't Breathe Part 2 at the top of the meh tier. I actually like Vacation Friends just a bit more than Beckett, so we're going to switch those two places. And on the good tier, as you can see, quite a few good movies this month. How about Annette at the bottom, just because it was so extravagant? I don't know if I can put it above those other films. Followed by Bob Ross, the documentary, which just, it made me very emotional. Then Reminiscence. Yeah, I know. I enjoyed this movie, guys. What can I say? Stillwater in the next spot. A really just heartfelt story. And then right next to that, and it's actually pretty close between these two, but I've got to go Free Guy in the next spot, Candyman at the top of the good tier. On the great tier at the bottom, we have The Night House. I did prefer The Witcher, Nightmare of the Wolf. I think this movie just does exactly what it tries to do. And then, of course, at the top of the great tier is CODA. Just a wonderfully emotional movie that I think everyone should see this year. And then at the top, it's pretty obvious. It's The Suicide Squad. I loved this movie, guys. That end of July, early August period from The Green Knight to that has just been, it's been really great. And this year so far has impressed, especially when you look at the movies to come. We still have so many Oscar players that haven't released yet. At least, I hope so. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate your support on these tier lists. If you liked it, let me know. I'll see you soon.